Hello students, today we'll start with a new topic, that is urine analysis. Okay, so this is important for you, both practical as well as theory wise. Okay, so first you need to know what are the methods of urine collection. Okay, first you have a random sample or a fresh specimen, then you have early morning specimen, midstream urine, 24-hour specimen, right? So for that you need to know each one why they are used. Okay, a fresh specimen is always better than any long standing cases. Usual investigations are done in a random sample. Early morning specimen is mainly used for UPT and if you require glucose. Okay, and midstream urine collection is mainly required for bacteriological investigations. What all investigations you will do in microbiology is usually collected by midstream sample. So what is this midstream sample? It is nothing but if you have to clean that area first, and both males and females, and then the first part of the urine is voided out, it is avoided, and you're collecting only the middle half. Okay, so that means the first half is discarded. Okay, you're not collecting that first half, and then you're collecting only the latter half. So that is your midstream urine sample. 24-hour specimen is mainly used for if you're collecting, you're given a big jar. Okay, the patient is given a big jar and they keep collecting in that particular jar. It's mainly used for proteins, for glucose. Okay, and other investigations, especially in special investigations like creatinine and all those things, can be done using 24-hour sample, right? So this is a urine bag. You might have seen all these things. Okay, this is the 24-hour urine collection bottle or the jar, which has a preservative in it, and that preservative does not hinder in any of these investigations. Okay, right, and these are the different collection tubes. So the one with the cover, which you can see, that is mainly used for microbiological investigation. That shows that it is packed properly under proper aseptic precautions. Okay, why? Because you need to culture the organism from that particular sample, right? So for that you require such a procedure, right? There are other collection bottles also with preservatives in it, right? This is a sterile one where mainly it is used for culture. Okay, or microbiological culture, basically to identify the organism, right? There are other methods also. Suppose the patient cannot void urine, there is no uro bag or there is no urine bag, then you go in for, especially kids, you will go in for suprapubic aspiration. That is nothing but through the abdomen or the pubis, they go directly into the bladder and they withdraw urine. Okay, so just remember there is another type of aspiration that is called as suprapubic aspiration. Now, what are the preservatives used for urine? You have toluene, boric acid, concentrated hydrochloric acid, chloroform, thymol, and sodium carbonate. These are the general preservatives used for urine preservation. Okay, so what you need to know is basically you have what are the methods of collection. Then there are two methods. You have physical examination and chemical examination. So let's see what is physical examination, what is chemical examination. If time permits, I'll finish the entire thing, or else I'll continue chemical examination later. Let's see. Okay, so what is physical examination? Physical examination requires you're basically checking for 6 parameters. One is the volume. Okay, then you have the color, you have odor, you have appearance. Okay, and there's one more thing I'll tell you later. So what is a normal volume? Volume is basically 1200 to 2000 milliliter per day is the normal excretion of urine, right? And color of urine is very important, odor is important, the appearance is important, pH. Okay, pH of urine is also important. So basically you have 5 parameters or 5 physical examination parameters, right? Of which, how will you know the pH? Basically there is a litmus paper. Ideal urine is 4.6 to 8. It is basically slightly acidic. Okay, so how will you know that this is acidic? You have litmus paper of, okay, if it is acidic, the blue litmus paper will turn red. If it is alkaline, the red litmus paper will turn blue. Okay, that is how you will check. Okay, and then so as I told you, there are physical examination, there are 6 parameters, right? So what are the parameters? First one was volume, then you have odor, you have color, appearance, pH, and specific gravity. Okay, so these are the 6 physical parameters which you check for every urine sample you get, right? What is a normal specific gravity? It is between 1.015 to 1.025. This is very important for you. You need to know all these things. For Viva, definitely you will be asked, right? And how do you check specific gravity? It is basically done using an instrument called as urinometer. Okay, and if you have to correct specific gravity, it is depending on the temperature. Okay, so for each degree, if the patient is febrile, then for each 1 degree, you have to, each 3 degree rise, you have to add 0.001 of the specific gravity, how much you get, right? So this is the urinometer. You might have known all these things. Instrument class is over, right? So this is urinometer. Now coming to the chemical examination. Okay, so for chemical examination you require, so physical examination was, that's it, right? And color is very important. What is the usual color of urine? It is pale yellow in color. Okay, then it can turn into different colors in the form, like if it is contaminated with blood, okay, it will be red, that is hemorrhagic. If there is so much of pus cells, then it is usually turbid, it is kind of milky, right? And it is black in case of alkaptonuria, right, or phenylketonuria. These are the conditions where the color of the urine will change. And if the patient is taking any form of medications like sulfur medications, etc., again the color of the urine will turn orange. Okay, so these are the important color changes. Now appearance is very important. Usually it is clear, okay, and it can be turbid in cases when the patient is having high infection. Okay, when the leukocyte count is elevated, they can have urine can turn turbid. Okay, then I told you about pH, and then we spoke about specific gravity, right? So there is a condition called as isostenuria. What is this isostenuria? It is nothing but specific gravity remains constant. Okay, it is 1.010. That is a constant specific gravity, and it is usually seen in chronic renal failure. Okay, that is a condition where the specific gravity remains constant. Then what else? What are the other investigations? What all will you do? pH is over, then the appearance is over. Volume, normal volume is between 1200 to 2000. So how will you determine this volume? Basically, for that's when you use 24-hour collection bottle. Okay, so you label it as polyuria when it is more than 2000. Okay, and you label it as anuria. That means when the urine output is really, or oliguria when the urine output is less than 1200. Anuria is total absence, that is when the urine output is less than 200. Okay, or now it is changed to even 100. Okay, so there are different clinical conditions where you will get oliguria, where you will get polyuria. Polyuria is usually seen in diabetes, okay, or diabetic ketoacidosis, or diabetic mellitus, okay, where the patient has polyuria, polyphagia, polydipsia. All these things are associated with diabetes, right? And then you will have oliguria when there is kidney involvement. Okay, kidney involvement in the case of acute renal failure. Okay, and if the patient is having any other kidney disorders, like when there is a block in the ureters, all these things can add on to oliguria. Anuria is usually reduced, maximum reduced level of urine that is usually seen in um, chronic renal failure. Okay, so that finishes your physical examination. Now we'll go to chemical examination. Okay, so in chemical examination, what are the parameters we check? Basically, we are checking for proteins, glucose, right? So what are the proteins in urine? You actually have albumin, globulin, mucin, hemoglobin, myoglobin, and Bence-Jones proteins. So these are the normal proteins which are present in urine, but their ratio is very minimum. Okay, ideally you will find very trace amounts or very minimal amounts. Okay, when you find excess of these amounts in urine, it is definitely pathological. Okay, so for the urine test, how will you do this test? This is important for you. You need to know how to test for proteins, how to test for glucose, how to test for blood in urine, right? Then bilirubin, okay, bile salts and bile pigments. So these are the things in chemical examination. So let's see each one. So how will you detect proteins in urine? That is basically done by heat and acetic acid test and sulfosalicylic acid test. These are the two tests done for urine to detect proteins. Okay, heat and acetic acid, what do you do? First, you fill 2/3 of the test tube with urine. Okay, whatever urine sample you're getting, you fill that 2/3 of the test tube, and you heat only the upper portion. Okay, that too, you keep the test tube in a slanting position and heat only the upper part. Okay, so why you're heating only the upper part? The lower portion remains as a control. That's why you're heating only the upper part. Okay, and then what happens? You're ideally looking for cloudiness. Okay, proteins will coagulate, right, when you heat, so that cloudiness is what you are detecting. So how will you differentiate? There are so many factors that will hinder with proteins. Other substances also can coagulate. What are the other substances? I'll tell you later. But how will you detect, or how will you differentiate that it is definitely because of proteins? Okay, so for that you have to add 3% acetic acid. Okay, so if the cloudiness is because of proteins, it will deepen. If the cloudiness is because of phosphates or any other hindering substances in urine, it will disappear. So that is how you will differentiate. Okay, so clear? Right, so that is what I told you. Right, so how will you grade proteins? You will grade proteins as negative means there is no cloudiness. Trace means cloudiness is barely visible. This is important for you. Okay, 1 plus, 2 plus, 3 plus and 4 plus, depending upon the flocculation present. Okay, 1 plus you will definitely have a cloud and no granular floccules. 2 plus means you will have heavy granular but no flocculation. 3 plus is dense cloud and marked floccules. 4 plus is thick, curdy, precipitate and it coagulation. Okay, so these are the things. This is how you will grade proteins in urine. Okay, there is another test also called as sulfosalicylic acid test. I haven't included that. Okay, so what you do there is you take actually around 5 ml of urine in a test tube, and then you add few drops of sulfosalicylic acid or sulfur reagent. Okay, so this is an instant test, and you can find out the proteinuria if it is present. Okay, that the same thing, you will get a white precipitate or white coagulum will be formed. Here the advantage is you don't have to heat, whereas in heat and acetic acid, as the name implies, you have to heat it. Here you don't have to heat, you just have to add the reagent and keep it there. That's it. Okay, so what are the two investigations you will do for proteins? One is heat and acetic acid test and sulfosalicylic acid. When you're doing the experiment, we expect you to do both these. Okay, so this is very much important for you. So next we'll go to Benedict's test. Benedict's test is basically done for sugars in urine or glucose in urine. Okay, so what do you do? First you add 5 ml of Benedict's reagent. Okay, and to that you will add 8 drops of urine. You will add 8 drops of urine and then you boil it. Okay, so when you boil, what happens, there is a reaction which happens with the Benedict's reagent. Okay, the cuprous form will get converted into cupric form. Okay, there you will get a precipitate, and that precipitate depends on the amount of glucose or sugars present in the urine. Suppose you can range it like that depending upon the color. Okay, you can have a green color, yellow, orange to a red precipitate depending on the sugars which is present. Okay, so sorry. So when will you get sugars in urine? When the glucose level is more than 180, or it ranging between 180 to 200. Okay, so you have sugars in urine. That cupric form of sugar which is present will get converted to cuprous form when you heat it. Okay, so that is the reaction which happens, and there you will get a colored compound, right? So this is how you will get. Okay, the first thing which you are seeing, this is a negative one. Okay, this is a negative one, and then you have 1 plus, or when you have a little bit, that is light green, and then you have orange, and then brick red. Okay, so there you can grade it accordingly. Okay. So how will you report? If it is negative, means there is no change in color. Benedict's reagent has that blue color in it. Okay, so only when you get a light amount of sugars, they will change its color. That is, trace means either it is pale green or cloudy. 1 plus is definitely you will get a cloudy green. 2 plus a yellow to orange precipitate. 3 plus is orange to red, and you have 4 plus which is brick red in color. And this proportion is very important. 1 plus is usually less than 0.5 grams per deciliter, and if it is 2 plus, again it is 0.5 to 1, and 3 plus it is 1 to 2, and 4 plus it is beyond 2. Okay, beyond 2 point, that is 4 plus, you will get a brick red color, right? Right. Now, what are the other tests you will do for sugars? Just know these names. So Felling's test is done. It's the same thing, it will precipitate as Benedict's test also. So what are the sugars that are present in urine? You have lactose, galactose and pentose. Their significance in the sense to differentiate what are the types of sugars present in urine. Okay. Then what are the conditions where you will get false positive test? So you have carbohydrates in the blood that can give you a false positive test, indicating that there are other hindering agents in the blood. Then you have non-carbohydrates, that is, you have reducing agents and non-reducing agents, right? So sorry. So what are the ones which will give you a false positive test? You have lactose, pentose and fructose. Then you have something which gives you a false positive in non-carbohydrate category. You have salicylic acid, ascorbic acid, homogentisic acid and glucuronic acid. This is very, very important for you. What are the conditions that will give you false positive and false negative? This is important. So invariably we will ask you in Viva. Okay, what are the reducing substances? What are the non-reducing substances? Reducing substances are ones which give you a false positive test. Non-reducing substances are also present. Now, what are the tests very, very specific for sugars? You have glucose, you have glucose oxidase test, and usually that is done using enzymatic method. Okay, and lactose, you have Rubner's test and Ozazone test, and fructose is basically Selivanov's test, and pentose you have Bial's test, right? So I think this is enough for today. Let's continue the rest of the chemical examination in the next class. Okay, and you have a microscopic examination. Next class I will deal with ketone bodies. What are the ketone bodies? Bile salts and bile pigments. Okay, and the other microscopic examination, what all microscopically you will detect, right? Thank you.